I think it's like 24 degrees here Celsius. So I got my long sleeve on, but it's really nice, man. It's so fucking beautiful, man. I was sitting at the cafe down the street, and your place, did you actually book that place?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
It's a bit,
Yeah, that's
it's
good.
like a little bit expensive, but I'm like, I could have either got like a place for like 500 quid that
Yeah,
was either on my own or just like sharing with some locals, which isn't like bad. I'm not saying that's bad, but the
yeah,
place I've got is a co-living space with other people also trying to do the same thing. I'm just like, when I say same thing for people watching, other people trying to build their own businesses and travel. And for me right now, that's just perfect. Like where I live now in the UK, no one's doing it. Like I'm not in
yeah,
uh, that kind of a community. So I was like, do you know what? I'll spend a little bit more. And that is a bit of advice for people. Like if you're looking at two options and one's like marginally more expensive, like just what extra value do you get? For me, this is high value, surrounded by people who are doing a similar thing, like-minded people. They're doing like community events, etc. So like that's all built in. No one actually knows where we're talking about, but we're talking about Mexico.
yeah,
Playa,
yeah,
Playa del Carmen.
yeah. 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 Before we jumped on, we're talking. So I've been in Playa del Carmen now for, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks. It doesn't feel like that long. We actually haven't done a live show in that time. Just we've been so busy trying to buckle things up. Reese is actually coming down. Shit, I don't know, 2-3 weeks from now. Do I have that right? So we'll
Yeah,
be.
it's pretty
It's
close.
coming up
Yeah,
quick. So we'll be in the same spot. We'll be recording. I don't know if that's going to improve our anything that we're doing, but at least you'll both of our dumbasses will be in the same room, so that'll be cool. And we'll be able to really ramp things up. And the plan is to kind of, you know, get things more on track. And it's tough. Like we've done a lot, I think, remotely and everything else. But I think at a certain stage, it's always good. And back to your point about co-living. So you're coming down here, you'll be staying at a co-living spot, and it's tough when I have the same experience back home. It's tough if you're not around like-minded people, even if what everybody's doing is great. It's hard to get like better ideas and just kind of feel like you're making any progress because you don't really have any, you're not in a pool of people that you're bouncing ideas off of, and it's just the energy is different. And that's okay. But like you were mentioning, if you're looking at doing what we're doing and getting to remote work, or just being a nomad, whatever level you want to do that at, it is nice to be around like-minded people. And to your point about co-living, I find that like the apartment that we're in now, and I'm in the lobby of that building, I'm never like, I only come home to like shower, watch TV at night, and sleep. Like I'm always out working and networking during the day. So that's a really good point, especially if whether you're budget minded or not, to keep that in mind, that a lot of these places that you go to, especially for a short amount of time, you're going to spend a majority of your time out, whether you're at the gym or maybe at a pub or just co-working. So as long as you're comfortable where you're sleeping, that's great, but it's not that important. I think the atmosphere and the people you surround yourself with are a lot more important than the actual like having your own place. Because I'm never here, you know what I mean? So and that's obviously how you came to choose this place, right? The one you booked.
yeah, for sure. And just touching on the like when you go back or you go to a place where you're not surrounded by those people, it also makes you question. You're like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Because you're not surrounded by those people, and
Yeah.
we all want to live in different ways, and it's absolutely fine if people don't want to do the whole travel and work lifestyle. There are negatives, but I've definitely felt a few times here, and I'm like, because you get the pang, the desire, that like, don't get me wrong, I came back here, I was like, I want to settle down for a bit, have a base. Um, but still, I had the pangs of like, oh, every time you see a new place on the TV or whatever it is, or you hear about it from a friend, you're like, oh, that desire is real. And sometimes when you're surrounded by people that aren't necessarily thinking in that way, you're questioning yourself. You're like, why do I want that? Do you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
absolutely okay for us to want that.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. That
yeah,
happens.
so
Yeah.
looking forward to just getting out there and being surrounded, get the momentum as well. And I think it's especially important when, if you're trying to do something like a podcast, like we're trying to do, that momentum is really important. And so I'm sure it's going to help with that. I mean, 100% us being in the same place I mean,
Yeah.
still, it will have been a year since we first interacted, and we won't have met. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It was, I think February is when we started kind of piecing together whatever we thought this was going to be. And then, for every, for every 10 ideas, we may have chose to run with one. And, we tossed a bunch out along the way, but that's just the iteration process. Just, had a few good points about where I'm at in Mexico now for anybody who's interested about Playa del Carmen. And we'll tag the video as such, so it'll be easy for people to learn a little bit more about it. But it's warm, of course. I don't know if it ever gets cold here. It's reasonably priced. I'll just be candid about, I'm in this right down where all the action is, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's about 1,300 USD a month. Brand new building, and there are cafes everywhere. There are several co-working spots around here that obviously have a monthly fee, but most of the cafes and places you'll find other nomads and other people working remotely are just regular spots, and you could sit there all day. You don't get uncomfortable. Some places you go, they kind of frown on that. You walk in, you get like one cup of coffee, you don't leave all day, which is understandable. Some people don't want, people hanging out at their tables all day. But it is, for the price of coffee or co-working, it's an excellent spot. And I was here 2 years ago, and I found it's built up a little bit. It's a very safe place. You'll see, I don't I was afraid of what I'm going to say. I was going to say.
I was waiting for it. I'm just sat here like I was going to say something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that there's anything wrong with this, but I was going to say you do see you'll see women walking around at night by themselves. Like in certain parts of the city, like everywhere around us in every direction. So I know that somebody will have something to say about well, women can whatever. I'm like, yes, I know women can take care of themselves. What I'm saying is it's that safe of a place that there are people out walking around by themselves at all hours and everything else, and you never hear of any violence or any thing like that. There are people, just like anywhere else in the world, that get robbed and everything else. But then you see, you get the details, and you find out it was 3 a.m. They were just leaving a Coke bar or something, and I'm like, well, no kidding. They were looking for trouble. You know what I mean? But it's I'm enjoying it more the second time around. First time around, I wasn't making any money, and I wasn't sure if my copywriting career was going to take off. So it was a balance of, I want to have fun, but I'm also, that savings account just keeps going down with nothing going in it. But I do love the place. And you've been back in the UK now since, well, the last time we talked you were there, but how many months have you been there now?
Since end of July. So was that August, September, October, November, 4? So it will have been 5 months, which when I say that, it's crazy. I know when I left a year ago, I did not expect that I would be back in the UK for even a month in that time period. But it's been really good. And I think initially my plan was I'm going to do 2 months away and then come back. But Wanderlust has kind of seeped back in, and now I'm basically thinking I was always leaving this place, so I didn't actually have a physical place to come back to apart from my parents up the road. So I was always thinking, cool, I'll have to get another flat when I come back. Now I'm kind of okay, cool, I'm going across the world. It's a one-way flight. I'm not going to have the flat. Maybe just see a few other places. So now I did mention to you, Mexico for a couple of months, because I know you're leaving at the end of February anyway. And then mid-March to April, now looking at West Coast of the US. Never been to the US, always wanted to go. Bit gutted that I only have 3 months there on the visa, but I'm sure I'll go back at some point anyway. So I'll hit up the West Coast. And now, honestly, I'm like, oh, fuck. If I'm over there, maybe I just keep going around. That could be quite fun. So maybe I'll go out to Canada for a bit, because I've got a few friends up there. And then I'm like, oh, fuck it. Do I just go to Japan and then work my way across Asia and all the way back to Europe? Don't know.
Yeah.
Tell me if you're watching and you've done something similar, just put something in the comments.
Yeah. The best part about hearing that is just the attitude of, I'll see, because you one-way ticket, and that's the best freedom in the world. I mean, we always plan out a little bit, it's very rare. Even when you were coming here, you knew I was here, and I said, I'll check a place that, there's planning involved, but the ability and just the freedom to say, I don't know, I'm already in California. Hawaii's a 6-hour flight from here, and then Japan's another whatever flight from there. Australia's over there. All Southeast Asia where I was last year is over there. So
Yeah.
no, it's awesome to have those kinds of options. It just be mindful of the time change because that shit sucks.
Yeah, that's Mexico will be my first experience of that, so I'm curious to see what that will feel like. I've never left Europe, which is why I think when I booked the flight to Mexico, I was like, I mean, I'm not even there yet. But I think just booking it kind of like broke the seal a little bit, and I was like, cool, like you're going out of Europe, like it's absolutely fine. And now I'm just like, now I've done that, I'm like, oh fuck it, like just carry on going.
Do you guys get? Do you get 180 days here as well? I didn't look. I don't know if that was just for Canadians or U.S. citizens or if it's for everybody.
It's so vague. Everyone I know that's come through Mexico from the UK has said what it says on the like British government website is that they kind of let you know, but it's up to 180 days.
Okay,
It's
you'll
not
be fine then.
either.
Yeah, well, you should be okay. So they just changed some things. The last time we were here, you'd have to. This is probably if anybody's wondering about the visa situation, they've changed. It's improved greatly. Last time we were here, you have to go see a person, and then they they just write on the card like how many. Like you could ask for 180 days, and if they write 10, you have to go like. Yeah, they changed that now. Now when you come in, they take a photo, they scan your passport. It's all automated, and you get a little ticket and you're in the system and you get 6 months from that day. So it's no longer up to some grumpy customs agent, that's deciding how much time you're going to get. So you should be good to go. No, that's awesome, man.
Cool.
Yeah. How long are the flights? Is it like
it's
a full day?
11 hours direct, which seems fine. I haven't worked out my tactic because I get on there at 9 a.m. and then I'll get there like 3 p.m, I think. So I think I just have to stay awake the whole time.
Maybe. Sometimes
It should be
sometimes I do that, or sometimes I just keep the Tito's, keep the vodka coming. Then you wake up, then you wake up and you're on the plane long enough to get a buzz, fall asleep, wake up, and get the hangover before you even get off the plane, which kind of sucks. You probably don't want to. You don't want to show up like that, but
no. I want to honestly like this. Probably just the lameness now, getting stuck into this stuff. But I'm like actually thinking like, oh fuck, that's 11 hours distraction free, like planning, or like cool. If we've got like if we need to publish like articles, I can just sit there and go. So I'm hoping I can use it productively.
Yeah. There's another travel tip. You can't get certain channels here. You have to have a VPN. So like on our TV in our flat, our apartment up here, we can't watch HBO or Showtime, and Billions is on Showtime. So I have to log in. It's a workaround. I log in on my phone or the computer with the VPN and then stream it to the TV. So it's not, there's a way around it, but just keep that in mind. For some reason, I don't know, HBO and Showtime, they're like, no, Mexico doesn't need to watch our shit. I don't know what their problem is, but I'm sure there's some tax or something related, some government related bullshit that we don't know about. But
oh, the tax on Airbnb, crikey!
Yes.
So extra £200. I was like, saw the listing, it was like £600. I was like, cool, that's good. Got to the final bit, and they added like £200 on for taxes.
Yeah,
Mental.
yeah, that's unique to here. That's not. They don't do that in the States. They don't do that anywhere else we've looked, because we were going to Nicaragua after this, and it's like the tax will be like $40 a month or 40 USD a month. And something must have gone wrong. Something's going on because
something 100% going on.
They're like trying to double the rent, with the Airbnb tax, or I don't know. Who knows what's going on with the government down here? But no, it's a great place. It's awesome. We'll have a good time. As far as like work-wise and clients, I tried to think the last time we had just even a quick update episode with what we were both working on at the time. How's the arc of all your client work been going since a couple months back?
Yeah, so good. One client I just write for, pretty straightforward, nothing complicated. I just get the writing tasks in, usually on a daily basis, do the writing. They're e-commerce emails, they're fairly short, and that's just business as usual. The other client I'm doing more consulting with, I used to write for them, and then we've kind of removed that so they can put other people that want to really become amazing copywriters. I don't want to become an amazing copywriter. I wanted to learn the skill. I like doing it. And it's a service I can provide, but I don't want to go deep on it. So we were like, cool, let's people who love it to death, I want to do more of, they do that. I'll do more of the consulting at a higher level. That's going really well, actually. Just did a review with the guy. Amazing to work with. So much fun over the last year. And yeah, things couldn't be better there. So looking forward to getting into next year with him. And then my old agency, that's also going really well. They've basically renewed their focus in email marketing a bit more and retention marketing. And so I'm heading up a lot of that for them and managing some new clients in that space, some really cool clients as well, across several different industries. And that's really, really exciting. So like 2024 is set up, at least Q1 is set up to be pretty fun, quite a lot of experience to be gained as well. So I'm quite excited.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it as well. And I've noticed a shift where I have to bring AI up because it's important again. But we had that shift last
I thought
year.
it would be the one episode where we don't mention
No.
AI.
No. But this is good news.
10 minutes in?
Yeah. No, yeah.
On.
This is good news for anybody though who's looking to get into copywriting space, marketing space in general, whatever form of copywriting that could be, ads all the way to long form. So OpenAI was released a year and a couple of months ago. We were all kind of like, great, like how is this going to affect the market and our careers? And lately, I've been prospecting a lot more and checking out job boards and everything else. And the good news is the ChatGPT has become a very, very useful tool. Like it's awesome to get you about 70, 80% of where you need to go. Then after that, it needs to be edited down, of course, by somebody with experience or, like you were saying, kind of being a consultant or a strategist versus writing things from scratch. And I've noticed there's been the pendulum swung back now. There's a lot more copywriting jobs, growth strategy, which is what I renamed myself to on Upwork, a growth strategist. Whatever. I made it up. I don't know what that is, but what I've noticed, like last year when everything came out and the 3.5 came out and we were all kind of like not really sure about where our jobs are going to be, how long the arc was going to be. Is it going to take 6 months for this to take over everything? Is it going to take 6 years? Nobody really knew. And there was a lot of uncertainty there probably for the last 6 months. And recently I've been doing a lot of prospecting and I've noticed that there are actually higher paying jobs. Like if you can do, like you mentioned, the high level strategy and consulting and use chat as a tool to get you most of the way there and edit, which is a lot of the work that I'm doing now. I'm taking just raw content, running it through chat, GPT-4, and then editing. And those are very high paying jobs. I think I've got my hourly rate listed now at 125 USD per hour. And it hasn't slowed me down. I've actually got quite a bit more hits because when I first started I'll use Upwork as an example. When I first started there, I was set at 35 USD an hour. So now I'm up to 125. And
nice.
There's not a lot of, I have a better rated profile now, but there's not a lot of work history involved. But it's, again, it depends upon the type of writing. If you really like to copyright, if you really like that type of stuff, there's a place for you. But we always recommend just learning a little bit about the strategy and how to consult on it, because those are the big roles that I'm seeing now. Is like, hey, look, we need an email copywriter, but we also need somebody who knows how to use the systems and can edit this down and project manage. So the good news is that there are more jobs now than there were a few months ago, and the jobs I'm seeing are much higher pay. So we're headed in the right direction on that until the new model gets released, whatever that's going to be.
You should have that head for strategy, or at least just be extremely good at what you do and be able to use those tools. 100%.
Yeah. And again, not to cover things, but I'll resurface some stuff from previous shows. We've just be a good communicator, know how to use the tools, show up when you're supposed to show up, and deliver when you're supposed to deliver. It's really not that hard. There's a lot of people out there trying to do the same thing, but it's not that hard to stand out. So anyway, that's my update on the job market is it's great. There's a lot of new opportunity out there. And anybody who's thinking about getting into the industry who may have reservations because of all the things they've heard about either AI or just there just being an influx of copywriters and marketers, just know that a lot of people are probably thinking the same way you are, and they're not getting into it. So there's room, and there are a lot of opportunities. But along the lines of like my stuff, I'm dwindling. I'm raising my rates, and we'll get into. I know you've got some new. I forget what you called. I forget what you called the matrix, but we're going to get into it one of these days. That new one you've got developed. I know we do the profitability table,
yeah.
but then you've got the other one. Yeah, I forget. Can you describe that a little
The
bit?
leverage. Well, I called
Yes.
it leverageability, but it needs a different name. I haven't made them. It was just an idea at the time. But thanks for reminding me, because I'll probably do that on my downtime next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we mentioned profitability tables a couple of months ago, which is fairly standard, as in like get your clients there in a table, and all the types of work that you do, however you want to split it up, roughly how many hours you're spending on it a month, and then you're paying. It just tells you how profitable each client is. But there's a case for also measuring, how much leverage the work gets you, not just how much money the work gets you. So when I started, one of my clients, like, it was a low copywriting rate, even though the brands I was writing for were generating a lot of money. It was a low rate because I had no experience, so I needed that experience. So the leverage potential of cutting my fee down, but actually getting the experience of writing for these big brands, I can leverage that in the future. So like, it's more valuable than just the cash I get at the end of the month, because, and this is what happened, in like 4 or 5 months, which isn't a long time, I was then able to say I generated, or the emails I've written have generated over $1 million. Like, the value in being able to say that to any potential prospect, so high, even though I wasn't charging that much for each email. So that's another matrix table you could do for the work you're doing now, because you might be looking at some work and be like, oh, it's kind of cheaper work. But if there's value beyond just cash, maybe it's worth sticking it out, or taking that opportunity if you're being presented with an opportunity and you're like, oh, well, it's a little bit less money, but actually, cool, are you working for a really good brand that will give you leverage in the future?
Yeah, it just reminded me, I have to go update my work history on a couple of things along those lines of some of the brands and everything else. And a little bit off topic, but just a reminder as you go, even if you're not building a website in the beginning, and we have different thoughts on whether somebody needs a website, I think it's always helpful to have at least some type of landing page just to show legitimacy, even though most people check you out through LinkedIn. But start keeping track of all these little things. I know people always say this after the fact, like write things down as you go or keep rough notes. But now it's like looking back over work history and like revenue generated and all those other things. I don't know any of that shit. I'm gonna have to spend an entire day trying to dig back through email threads and everything else. So do yourselves a favor and try to keep track of all that stuff up front, and then you can stack your work history. So on my work history on my website, for example, it's just a Notion page, and I go in there and I tweak it, and I've got everybody that I've worked for, even if I've only done a couple of projects, and I'll list, you don't have to go in depth on your timeline. You can say I worked at, VaynerMedia, email marketing, whatever. And then you could put like a little anecdote, a little note, like generated this much or whatever, just to show a timeline. And if the contract's ongoing, you just do it from whatever the start date was to present. So not to get off on resume building or anything else, but it's really good to keep track of these things at the beginning and not have to scramble to find it, dig all that shit out later,
Yeah, I love tracking. It's just, I love doing it for everything anyway. But it is nice to look back on stuff and compare months. Like, I could compare months in terms of like the amount I've worked, and like over time, it's quite nice to see like, oh wow, like I was caning it there, and then like, cool, I had a really good month, and I didn't actually like work an insane amount or like burn out or anything. So it's quite nice to see that.
Yeah, it'll
And
sneak
also
up on
it
you.
allows you to identify when you're like analyzing the work that you do. Like, there's many fucking tables you can do. There's profitability, there's leverage, but there's also like enjoyment. It's like, cool,
Yeah.
what clients or type of work do you enjoy doing most of? Like, cool, it's this one here. Oh, well, I'm only doing that like 5 hours a month. Maybe that's why you enjoy it. or maybe you'd like to do more of it. So I think for me, at least, tracking helps me do that.
Yeah, it actually, you could do it across the board health wise too, because I should specifically remember when I wasn't sleeping well, the months, and I remember who I was working for, the months I wasn't sleeping well, when I was putting on weight, like, because you have to look at your life as a whole. It's not just work's over here, life's over here. So the months I was going to the gym more often, and there's easy ways to track all that stuff now. You could literally, and maybe I need to do this, but like put in like a little work diary and another box of how I felt that day, how I slept, like obviously the Whoop tracks all that, but still it's good to look back on all that. See, like, when was I the happiest? When was I in the best shape? When did I feel good about what I was doing? Because it will just start happening. And it's like, what's that, the frog in boiling water thing? Like, shit'll start to suck and work starts to pile up and things start getting stressful. But it usually doesn't happen overnight. Usually it takes a few weeks. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, what am I doing? I'm not even enjoying myself. I'm in a new place, for example, not getting out and seeing the things I want to see. Maybe I put on some weight. I need to do all these things. So
Me
yeah,
too.
I think
Don't
it's
worry.
important. Promotional piece about Playa del Carmen. There are a lot of really good gyms around here. And the one for where your place is at, it's just a straight on the beach. The one that I go to,
What's it called?
and then it's called The Gym. And then
Okay.
there's another one around the corner. They're about the same price, but the one I go to is pretty quiet and there's nobody in there in the morning. And then the CrossFit gym is about 4 blocks from there. But my knee's giving me a little bit of trouble. I still want to do it. So maybe when you get here, we'll go like do a little on-ramp stuff. But I've just been just like trying to get back into the throwing some weights around and whatever. So, but yeah, there's plenty of options for that here too. But yeah, life will sneak up on you, man. Fucking see, you're like, what am I even doing this for? Like, I came somewhere to work remotely, and I'm working 12 hours a day. So it's good to keep track of all these things, and realize who's. It's scary. We'll wrap this up here in a minute, but I've got a job right now that I keep every time we do one of these, I'm like, hope they don't watch this. But I've got something right now that pays steadily each month versus like a freelance client, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get out of it, and I can't. And it had, if anybody that is watching this or anybody we know, any of our friends were to call me right now and have the same problem, I would tell them, you needed to be out of that job weeks ago. What are you doing? Life is too short, which is true. And if you leave that position now that's taking all your mental bandwidth and energy, you would probably have 3 more clients by the end of the week that pay you 3-4 times as much. So I would have that good advice for somebody else. But when I'm living it, of course, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. That's a steady paycheck. Maybe I'll hang in for one more pay period, kind of thing. So it's a struggle that we all face. But yeah, it
Get comfortable.
definitely helps keep track. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Sure. We'll keep track.
Comfort is addictive, and it's hard to keep that in mind. And I think when you are in the client acquisition stage, that hunger and that kind of instability is like you get a bit of adrenaline from it, and you're more. I think you're more aware of, like, you're not desperate, but you're a little bit more ruthless. Like, you're looking for very good options to like move forward with. Whereas as soon as you get something, you start getting comfortable, you're not using free time to like look for something better. That paycheck's coming in. So like free time comes around, you're like, cool, I'm just going to chill out. And don't get me wrong, you have to do those things, but like, you're not thinking about like, cool, is this really the best I can still do? Like, you want to kind of get clients. And I don't mean like you want to be getting clients and like ditching them after a certain amount of time, but like if you genuinely don't enjoy it, you need to be aware of it. I'm not saying, it sounds like I'm speaking to you, but
Yeah.
talking to
It
anyone who's
works.
watching, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, be ruthless all the time and just consider like, cool, is this how I want to be spending my time?
Yeah. And there's easy things you could do. You can look at whoever you're working for, whether it's a freelance client or a long-term contract in any industry on the planet. If you look at the long term, because we don't usually, like, we think it's a fantasy. Like, what's my 5-year plan? We think about these things, but we don't actually think about these things. Meaning, like, well, if I were to stay in a particular role that I'm in now, and I'm not happy with the pay or the hours now, do I really think that 2 years from now they're going to double my salary. That's not going to happen. If anything, it's going to go up just incrementally small, depending upon the organization. And it's not going to be less work. Like, there's going to be more work attached to the role, even if there's a promotion involved. So if you think of it like that, like, why am I sticking around? Like, why am I sticking around now? It's not going to get any better. And it also depends on your end goals too. Like, I don't want to work in a corporate setting, for example. Nothing against agency work. Some of them are great. But yeah, all those things, like all the things, again, I'm hearing myself say it now. And I'm like, yeah, fuck. I have to start typing my letter of resignation as soon as we get off this call. But yeah, you have to look at the long-term
this
arc.
podcast that you just needed to do this podcast episode.
Yeah.
And now cool, that's it, done.
Yeah, I've got a stack of shit I got to finish today too. But again, it's easy for me to say now. I'm comfortable to the extent that I can get freelance clients that are a little bit higher paying than when in the beginning. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. So, I say these things now after working very, very hard for a couple of years, through the weekends and everything. And not everybody has to do that. It's just what I did. And so I'm at the point now where I'm like, this job's not working for me. I choose not to do this. And it's a good feeling to be able to make that choice. But in the beginning, like you were saying with some of the low paying stuff, it's what you got to do. And you don't have to do it for long. If you're good at it, you show up, you communicate, you're willing to learn, those things don't drag out forever. Even if you took a job that you didn't really care for 6 months, 6 months goes by really fucking fast, so It doesn't take long to get out of
it. I've literally just come off I'm not on my Christmas break now, but most of the work is done. So when you your body's just like, oh, that's it, and you're suddenly just going to get this whoosh. I think I'm starting to get that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking about the science of that. It might have been Huberman. There's actual, your brain knows to keep your cortisol levels at a certain,
right.
And then when it knows you can, that's why when people go through a lot of stressful shit or just busyness, not necessarily stress. And then when it's gone, your brain's like, okay, now you can get sick and tired. And it's just
yeah. Yeah. So honestly, it's annoying as well because I'm I think next week will be different. I think the next couple of days and the weekend and Christmas will that will probably be it. But you kind of when you're working, you have all these ideas of the things you want to do in that time. And then you get the time and your body's just no, you're not going to do this. And you're when am I going to get around to this stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, that's odd, man. I remember I had that week off and I got sick and had food poisoning, which was probably the food, but still it happened. And then, I was like, well, I'm not fucking doing anything. All these big plans I had, not happening. So
that's what I mean. It sucks.
Fuck
we have to get some stuff planned while I'm there to go off and see some stuff because, I mean, I don't know the next time I'll be in Mexico.
There's a lot
here.
here.
Mexico City?
I did when I was 17, a long time ago. I've heard great things about it. I don't know. I know it's far from here. It's a big country. I think it's pretty far.
You have to fly.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to drive, but
yeah. I mean, there's a lot to do in the immediate vicinity, and then there's a lot to see all over. I almost think I'm going to have to come back someday to a different part, maybe Merida, maybe Mexico City, maybe up in Puerto Vallarta, I think is on the West Coast. I mean, it's a big place. There's so much to see here, but the long tourist visa does help a lot. You don't feel pressure to get out of here so fast. 6 months makes a big difference. But yeah, I know we got to start thinking about stuff like that. There's some stuff that I've already seen that I wouldn't mind seeing again, and then there's some stuff that I just some of the ruins and stuff like that. I'm I don't really want to go back to that, only because you see it once and it's pretty cool.
Sure.
But figure that shit out.